Hi there, welcome to Geo-Surface Pro. My name's Simon Knutson and I'm the developer of the platform. So I'm going to use a few short videos here to give you some introduction to Geo-Surface and take you through some of the typical workflows that most users will perform while you're actually using it. So in this first video, we're just going to look at the general layout and controls. So when it first opens, you're going to see a pop-up like this. You just have to click accept and continue on. And one thing here, we do have this screen size recommendation. So Geo-Surface really is not designed to run on phones. It will run on a phone, but it's not going to be very easy. The bigger the screen, the better as far as using Geo-Surface, because we've got lots of tools and we need to be able to click and view on the map. Once you acknowledge the introduction information, it'll automatically try and force your browser into full screen. If you don't like that, if you're on a Windows, you can just hit escape and it'll make it go back to normal size again. And if you want to force it back to full screen, F11 on your keyboard should do the job for you as well, and you can toggle back and forth that way. So this is the US version. This is the view that you'll see if you're in the US version. And just like magic, this is the view that you'll see if you are in the Canadian version. So both are exactly the same as far as the functionality. They just have different map views, and obviously we're using different data layers to fetch the LiDAR elevation data for Canada and the US. So in this video, I'm just going to go over the main setup of the platform, so what you're going to see and where the tools are that you're going to use. So the first obvious big one here is the map window, and this is where you're going to pan and zoom around. And you can use this to locate your fields. If you're in Canada, when you zoom into the prairies or into Ontario, you'll start to see either quarter sections or Ontario lots. And in the US, if you toggle on the map layers tab at the floating button at the bottom left there, if you turn on the PLSS overlay, you can see an overlay to help you locate your section with township and range as well for US locations. So this is a good time to introduce these controls down at the bottom left. So we've got 5 floating buttons down here. First one is your map layers. So this is where you can turn on and off different base layers. I'll talk about that in a second. Depending on where you are, there's also some options for different resolutions of contours, and that works both in Canada and the US. If you're in an area where we have the ideal drainage mapping flow, you can turn those layers on and off as well. You don't really need that with Geo-Surface because you'll actually be computing your own more detailed, more accurate flow routes on field-by-field basis. And there's also some regional flow, so these are just government-provided drainage and mapping layers. So that, again, the US and Canada both have them. They're a little bit different, and they'll just show you some recognized waterways, wetlands, things like that you can turn on and off. And in Canada, you can turn on and off the land parcel layer. In the US, you can turn on and off the PLSS land locations as well. Now, if you're in Canada, one useful function here, let me just zoom out a little bit, is the ability to turn on the LiDAR terrain, because unfortunately in Canada, we don't have complete coverage of everywhere. So if you turn on the LiDAR terrain layer under base layers here, you'll see where currently LiDAR is available. And you can see this in the viewer, the free version as well. So you can use that to check. And you can see here, wherever we've got the gray overlay, that means that we have high resolution, high accuracy LiDAR data available. And if you're seeing just satellite imagery here, then that means that it is not available. And if you're in one of those areas, or you're planning on working in one of these major areas, and currently there is no LiDAR, I would not recommend at this point that you would subscribe to the Pro version, because we rely on the LiDAR coverage. If you're in the US, it's almost exclusively covered. You can check on the homepage of the website for the exact coverage areas, but there are only a few very small areas that are not currently covered. Okay, the next button along is the toggle on or off GPS location tracking. So if you are on a tablet or something, you can click on that button and it will drop a marker at your current location, and you'll be able to see where you are. The next button here is load reference layer, and I'll do a video on that, how to use a reference layer. So let's say you have a scanned or a paper map, an EC map, or showing you where utilities are or something like that. You can load them in, and I'll show you how to do that in one of the lessons, one of the video lessons that I'll record, available here as well. Next button is some measuring tools, so you can measure area, distance, add some labels, and I will be updating that to add some annotation tools as well, so you'll be able to annotate the map. And then an important button here, this one opens up the user manual, and you can see a comprehensive user manual, and it explains a lot of the functionality, how to use different things. So if something isn't quite making sense to you, take a look at, see if there's a video on it, and also have a look at the user manual to see what you can find out in there. The other function in the map window is the search box. So you can search by location, for example, a town or a city, or somewhere nearby, and the search box is tuned depending on whether you're in Canada or the US to look for locations in your country. And then we move over to the left side here. So this is the sidebar, and this is where you'll actually be doing a lot of your work and activating tools when you're using Geo-Surface. So it's split into 3 different tabs, and as you click on the tabs at the top, different side panels will open. So the first one is the setup tab. That's what you see first, and this is where you get started with your designs or importing data, or just setting up your area of interest. And again, I'll show you that in the next video, exactly what to do there. The middle one is the design tab. So this is where you have all of your design tools. Most of these are grayed out in the viewer free version. They're only available in the Pro version. And this is where you'll be creating your drainage designs, doing the validations, and again, there'll be a detailed video on that you'll be able to watch after this one and see how that's all done. And finally, the import and export window. So this is where you can come to back up and restore your projects, which is really important. Make a habit of doing that. This is a little bit different than a typical app or computer program in that it's running 100% in your web browser. We don't have access to any of your data. It's all just living locally in your browser's virtual memory. And if you hit refresh or something like that, for example, you will lose whatever you have on the screen. And if you haven't backed up, you'll have to do it all again. It's very, very simple, just takes a few seconds, saves everything in a zip file, and then you can keep restoring. And it's a good idea to just do that as you're working through your project. Just make a habit of backing up every 5 minutes or so. You can always delete the old backups and just keep the most recent ones, but it's really nice to be able to just roll back to a stored backup. And here we have other export formats as well that you can explore once you're using the platform. So that's the initial introduction, and in the next video we'll dive in and I'll actually show you how to start using Geo-Surface in both the viewer and the Pro version. We'll look at some of the simple functionality to begin with. I'll see you in a minute.